Hello everyone, I've been meaning to do this video for a while, and now that I'm working through my ballots for the LCS awards for spring, I figured it's as good a time to do it as any. So I take very comprehensive notes on the games that I watch, different levels of detail depending on what level of game I'm watching, and I focus on different things in different games. But I want to show you a little bit about what level of notes I take. I'm not going to go into really fine details on what specific things I write down or how or why, but I want to look at the broad overview of what kinds of notes I take and why I take them on the platform I do and in the way that I do and what it allows me to accomplish. So I use OneNote. I use the Windows app version of OneNote, but I'm sure you could use the online version as well. And there are probably other notebook apps that could do a similar kind of thing, but I use OneNote. And in OneNote, my notes for a game might look something like this. So you can see I write down the draft, I write down the team comps. Sometimes I won't write down the full draft. Depends just, what I'm watching, what I'm focusing on. And then I write down bullet points for what happens during the game. I'll have general observations. I will sometimes have time-stamped. Very often I'll write down an approximate timestamp of when something happens. That allows me to then, go back and rewatch a play later if I want to find it more easily. I can also easily share that with the editor for Run It, for example. If I find a play that I think might be interesting, I can go back and find those types of plays more easily. And I'll just write down kind of the main things that happen during the game. So, there's a key play here and what the consequences are, or just, this player seems to be doing this so far in this game, or I'm noticing this kind of mistake. And I also make sure, very crucially, to write down the full player names in each of these notes. And the reason I do that, so let's say I'm reviewing what I thought of Power of Evil's performance this split, and I want to decide, is he one of the all-pro mid laners or not? So I can do a search for Power of Evil, and then I can apply that search to my entire LCS Spring 2021 notebook. And now each page that I have for each individual game, and I'll put all the games from one series within a single page as well when it comes to that portion. And now it'll be highlighted if it says Power of Evil anywhere in it, and I can scroll through and I can look at every note I had on Power of Evil. So in the Week 1 game, do you remember what happened in TSM versus FlyQuest in Week 1? Probably not, but I can look back here. I definitely don't remember, but I can see what they're playing. Okay, Power of Evil was playing Syndra against Orianna. I thought he was lane kingdoming Palafox. He takes a plate mid a little later. He's using around 10:30. He's using some priority to roam to the bot lane. He gets caught by a Licorice roam at one point, gives up first blood. He steals blue buff with a Cinder W, and then I didn't have much to say about him for a while. And then at the end of the game, I'll sometimes put italicized notes that are more like overall observations. So I thought he controlled his lane and set up some openings that TSM failed to use. And then there's a weird play kind of at the end where TSM looks like they had some desync on their setup around the Elder. And so I can go through and then I can look at the next game. That took me a few seconds, right, to get my overall impression. And I can look at the next game and see, okay, he's laning well against Perks. Looks like he took a turret shot. Vulcan roamed down from rotation to Herald. They killed Power of Evil. So far I'm seeing, okay, he's given up some kills to ganks kind of later in the laning phase. I see that in both last game and this game. And you can find trends much more easily that way. You're not relying on just memory alone, although I come into this with some pre-existing ideas that I rely on myself to say, what is my general impression of this player? What are some trends that I have noticed just out of memory so far this split? And then I look for notes that I've taken and also stats as well as another point of triangulation for this analysis. And I'll say, does this line up with what I already thought? Does this go against what I already thought? Do I have to change my opinion of this player based on what I was seeing before? And of course, since I'm the one writing these notes, writing them down does make them sink in a little bit. So the general ideas and trends should be there already a little bit in my mind. But being able to go back through an entire split, and I could review every note I wrote about this player from the past 6 weeks in 3 to 5 minutes. I can read everything I wrote depending how hard I'm reading all the bullet points around them, and get a very quick, comprehensive take on what I felt about that player. So this approach requires a lot of discipline because you have to watch every game very actively. I do a lot of typing. Like this is, I take notes anywhere from 200 to 500 words per game. And that's just not just sitting and watching and thinking about it. That's writing it down as you're watching. And you have to rely on yourself as an analyst to be writing down good notes, right? the quality of my observations that goes into these notes defines the quality of the analytical value that I take out of the notes when I review them later. So, taking notes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good analyst. You have to be, the better of an analyst you are, the better notes you're going to take. But I think taking notes like this really enhances your ability to combine all your observations from a wide time period to be really efficient in reviewing what you've thought so far and not be relying too much on your memory. Because memory, I don't know, maybe for you it's not so bad, but for me, my memory is very untrustworthy for a lot of these things. So this is a little bit of why I approach note-taking on games the way I do, what it accomplishes for me to use OneNote in this way. And again, you could use this with other apps, I think, but I wouldn't do it in Word documents or Google Docs or things like that, because you can't do a comprehensive search across all those documents and quickly go through them all at once. I think an app like this is really, really beneficial if you want to be disciplined and structured as an analyst in your note-taking. So that's the way I do it. I'm curious what other people do. I don't know how pros might accomplish it, but I think this system works pretty well for me.